Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Christian Indie Artists and Songwriters Podcast. I'm your host, Brian, and on today's episode, we're going to reflect because it's that time of year again. At the time of this recording and upload, it is the final week of 2021. And if you're anything like me, this is the time of year where we just did Christmas and we just did all the holiday fun, but now we're looking towards the new year and how we can make it the best yet on our music journey and in our lives. So I have a simple acronym for you. Before we jump into that, I wanted to tell you about a really special sale that we have on our Logic Pro X for Artists and Songwriters course that's only going to last from Friday, December 31st to Sunday, January 2nd. The course is going to be only $99, regularly priced at $147, but we wanted to do a special price to get you kickstarted on your new year as you make music from home. Now, whether you are planning to make an entire full production, release-ready master from home, or just learn how to record your vocals and do some great demos from your home studio, this is the course for you, designed exactly to help you along your journey. My heart behind this course was to show you the entire process from setting up your first session in Logic to create a release-ready project. So there's nothing left out. We walk through every step of the process, from the vocals to the programming to the instrument playing to the vocal editing to the mixing and everything in between. So if you're interested in that, click the link below. Like I said, it's only for today, tomorrow, and Sunday of this New Year's weekend 2022. So I hope that you jump in and don't miss the special $99 pricing. So like I said in the beginning, this is all about reflecting. This is the time of year where we look at what we've done over the past year, and then we look at how to take that and move it into the new year with the best focus and the best results we can. And hopefully through the years and through the process, the journey continues to grow. We get better at what we're doing and we impact more people with our music. Ultimately, that's the whole point of this, right? So I was thinking about this. When it comes to songwriting, typically it's a reflection, right? A lot of times we're writing about our past experiences. Now, we may frame that in a new way, but because we're not writing in the future, we're writing in the present, we're primarily looking at things in the past that are informing our songwriting and our artistry in general. So I think reflecting can be a very creative and very uplifting idea that can really help keep us moving forward. So when I was personally looking at this new year coming up, I wanted to take a slightly different approach. In the past, I'm always kind of thinking about what's something new I can do, what's something new I can try. It's the old throw the spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks thing. And that's great. And I feel like everybody needs to obviously innovate in new things along the way. I mean, we serve a God who's obsessed with the new. He's always talking about the new thing springing up a well. Can't you perceive it? I love that verse and I live by that verse. But this year I wanted to take a slightly different approach. And instead of building or creating a new stream, I wanted to take the current streams we have and make them go deeper and wider, ultimately maximizing our efforts to the best way we can with the infrastructure and the things that we already do. So for us, that means things like our CIAS playlist is completely rebranded, refreshed, and looking forward to a new year. Now it's called the Indie Christian playlist, and it's the same basic idea, the same vision. It's to help artists and songwriters get their songs heard and help promote their songs and their artistry through this playlist. It's growing playlist. It's grown a lot over this past year. So kind of went in and rebranded, refreshed it. And with that, if you're interested in pitching your song to the playlist, there'll be a link down below where you can do that. And like I always say, we will listen to and like every single song that we hear, but not every song gets placement just because I'm keeping it a smaller list that's refreshed more frequently. Feel free to click the link below and pitch your song, and don't forget to like the playlist and share it as well, because that's the best way that this platform can reach the most people for all the great songs and artists represented on the list. And another way that we wanted to take what we already do and do it better is we have the Release Well Consistency Plan, which if you don't know what that is, we've talked about that a bit before, but basically it's a year-long production coaching program that the artist will result in a certain amount of songs after a certain amount of months. In the past, we've done 6 fully produced songs over the year period. Every 2 months, there'd be a new song finished. What I found and what we found working with artists on this is sometimes that timeline might be a little bit too condensed. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it 4 songs over a year period, a song every quarter. But this way it allows us to put more promotion and more intention into each release to try to get it out even further. So if you're interested with that as well, you can go to my website, brianbalvermusic.com, and send me a message and just put the subject line, Release Well Consistency Plan, and I'm excited to talk to you about that. So these are just a couple of ways that we are looking into the new year to try and do what we've been doing at a better way. Like I said, the analogy I'm using is instead of creating a new stream, we're going to expand and give more depth to the current different streams that we're doing. With that, I came up with an acronym that I think will really help you frame up as you're planning for this new year. Now, I know that this episode is going live on January 31st, 2021, so you've probably already been in the planning process. I hope that this will help finish that out and maybe reframe it slightly, or you might already have a perfect plan in place, and this will just be extra encouragement and validation that you are on the right track. So the acronym is ACE, A-C-E. Assessment, consideration, and execution. These three items, these three words will help frame up any journey moving forward in the best way as we assess things, as we look at what we've done, as we consider them, meaning setting goals, meaning do we really need to do that? Because assessment and consideration are tightly woven together, but I feel like they're distinctly different because assessment is just the overall look. The consideration is digging in deeper and figuring out what might have worked the best and what could work even better in the future. And then, of course, the execution is the piece that brings it into reality, because a lot of us are dreamers, a lot of us are creatives, a lot of us think about all these great ideas, all these exciting ideas, but if we don't execute, then they never leave our hearts, they never leave our minds, and then they can't impact anyone. So the execution is such a necessary piece of that. So I wanted to jump into these three categories, talk through them, and then hopefully it will encourage you on your journey as you plan in for 2022. So number one, assess. I think this is so important looking back at the year that we've done. Now, if you have any kind of goal sheet that you created last year, this is a great time to look over that. Honestly, a lot of people will tell you that you should be looking at that goal sheet throughout the year to see if you're hitting things that you want to, because that way you can do actionable steps. But the reality is, a lot of us are busy, we forget, and then if we don't know what we're after, then we can't celebrate what we actually hit throughout the year. So it's really important to look at that. For instance, we've posted a couple of recap posts on social media recently, and if you don't follow me, it's just at Brian Bolivar and Brian Bolivar on Facebook. So do that if you don't follow me. That'd be awesome. Would love to connect with you on Instagram and Facebook. But you'll see our posts. We first did a post about our recap of releases. We had our top 27 favorite releases of the year. Many of those were artists and songwriters that I was privileged and blessed enough to produce. So it was really great to see all those songs. Now, overall, I did a count through my projects folder, and I worked on over 80 songs this past year, which still blows my mind, and that's only through God's power and provision that can even happen. But 27 of those songs were our top releases, which most of those were songs we produced for other artists. And we're looking forward to the same, if not greater, in the new year. We also did a recap on this podcast. We highlighted the top 29 interviews of this year. We had 52 episodes. As you know, if you've been around for this year and years prior, we've been keeping up with a weekly release at minimum. 29 of those podcast uploads for this year were with some incredible guests. Like we kicked off the year with Joel Vaughn and Katie Reynolds. We had my friend Ross King. We had Tema Tape just a few weeks ago now, Olivia Lane, Ben Lane, Brandon Bagby, Holly Salazar, and so many others that I can't list off right now. But if you check the post, you'll see them all there. And it was an incredible year. I feel personally encouraged. I feel so inspired and fired up by all these interviews. And honestly, I reference and quote the people that we have on the show all the time because their wisdom is so valuable and so encouraging to me personally. And I hope it's been to you too. That's another way that we have assessed our year is by looking back and literally going through all the pictures and going through all the songs and going through and saying, wow, like it's easy to forget because honestly, there was a couple of songs that, now these were not of artists, but a couple of songs that I had no idea. I don't remember doing them. I don't remember where they came from, but they were in my projects folder. So I finally figured it out, actually. There was one in particular that I completely I had no idea where it came from. And the funny part is I was actually singing on it. I sang a demo on it, and I didn't know where it came from. So that just points to how, if we don't assess, if we don't look back, we can forget. And then we might feel like we didn't do anything. We didn't get as many accomplishments as we were hoping for, as many achievements as we were striving for. But looking back and assessing is the best way to do that. So I would say the first step of setting up a goal for a new year is the assessment process. And I hope that you can do that with your journey of this year as well. Number 2 is consider. Now, like I said in the beginning, consideration and assessment are closely tied together, but I think they're distinctly different. Assessment is looking back. Consideration is digging deeper into the weeds and understanding why things are the way they are. It's considering what worked, what didn't work, and what can we do in the future. And I feel like considering is where the goal setting happens, because assessing is only looking backwards. Considering is looking backwards, present, and future. So consideration is so key to that. So when it comes to your goal setting, okay, what did you set for last year? What was your goals for the entire year? What did you hit? what maybe didn't you hit, but what other new developments popped up? Because yes, it's so important to set goals, but it's also, I think, equally important to stay flexible and not be so rigid to say, if I don't hit this goal, then it's a failure. Because a year is a long time and things can change. New things can come out. There could be new strategies that are born. There could be new things that develop in your own career and journey, new relationships made that might take things in a different direction. So considering those things is so important. Taking a detailed deep dive into what's happened to figure out where to go is so key. And the only way that we're going to get there is by taking time, energy, and putting it into this process. This is not something we just think about on the wayside. We need to really take some time, maybe in your quiet time in the morning, maybe at night, whatever is your creative window, as we've talked about in the past. Look at that time and consider, write it down. Write down what you achieved and then what you want to achieve, what you can see happening. I think forecasting is really crucial because you might see something, because I feel like in business, the best businesses recognize a need and fill the need in a market that other people may have not noticed yet. So as a business owner, as your artistry is a business, is a personal brand, taking the time to look at the need in the industry. How can you serve the industry? Because ultimately, your success is directly correlated to the amount of people that you can serve. So figure out ways that you can serve the community that you're in. And that comes through careful consideration and planning for the future. Before we jump into point number 3, if you're finding value and encouragement in this video, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe, because this is the way that the YouTube algorithm can reach the most people and help other people do what you're doing and get their songs heard just like you. I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe. And now let's jump into point number 3. And number 3 is execution. If we never execute on anything, then we just have good ideas and big dreams in our heart, but until we execute them, they don't become reality. So if the first step of this is assessing, looking at what we did, the second is considering, figuring out how to do what we do better and move forward and setting goals. The number 3 is executing and actually doing these things. Because like I said, if we don't do them, then they can't impact anyone. If we have an amazing song idea, but we never write the song and we never record the song or release the song, then it can't make the impact that it's supposed to. So executing is so important. I feel like a lot of us fall short here, myself included, because we get really excited about an idea and a principle, but then there's some work involved and there's some chance involved, there's some vulnerability involved to where we might open ourselves up for failure. We might do things that might push us out of our comfort zone, and then we just actually don't execute. We don't follow through. And then that is where we get stuck, because if we don't do anything, then we just end up getting discouraged, and eventually we get burnt out because it's too much effort to do it. If we're not keeping that momentum of doing things, then we'll eventually quit, because there's no steam, there's no payoff. It's just a bunch of ideas, and without the execution, there's no payoff. And so how do you execute? Well, when you're setting the goals in the consideration phase, we set big goals, ultimate goals that could be 10, 15 years, 5 years, 3 years down the road, but we also set small actionable goals that we can write down, real, simple. It's the lowest hanging fruit. We did the episode in season 1. The lowest hanging fruit. We pick the things that we know we can do right now, set those as actionable goals, and then execute. You know, the big wins don't come all at once. They come from little failures or little triumphs along the way, all through executing. It's like the episode on grit. Resolve is making definite decisions, and I think that's where the execution comes in. I'm going to do this. I'm going to see it through. I'm going to follow through, and I'm going to execute. And I feel like that is what gets us into the new year with a sense of purpose and an agenda. It's not just some whimsical ideas that we have on paper. We know what we want to do. We know we've seen where we've been through assessing. We have considered where to go, and then in execution phase, we're going to actually do it. And that's what ultimately ends us in reaching people and impacting them with our music. So that's it. ACE. Assess, consider, and execute. And I believe those 3 elements will set you up for the best year you've ever had as an independent artist or songwriter. Again, don't forget to click the link below if you want to get in on the Logic Products for Artists and Songwriters course. $99 from December 31st through January 2nd, 2022. I hope that you and your family have a happy new year, and I will see you next year on Friday at 5 a.m. on the CIS podcast.